Excuse me. Whoa. Who did that? I said, sure as shit wasn't me. Hi, everybody. Hello. Salutations. Salutations, my brothers. Inshallah. Texas did what? Yeah, Texas banned weed. What was it, 2 days ago, 3 days ago, whatever, Wednesday? Texas banned all THC products. You're in jail. You're in jail. You're in jail. Ugh. Isn't that something? Isn't that something, huh? The freedom-loving Republicans. Hell yeah, brother. Let me adjust the gain real quick. Hold on. Adjusting gain. Adjusting gain. Gain adjusted. Well, ain't that something, huh? But hi, everybody. Welcome to the Valenti Videos broadcast. We're not going to be live for too long, but we've got some work to do. Shalom, Air Chris. You're looking as spectacular as ever. Thank you, Ronaldo. I appreciate you. Opinions on Beyblade. Let her rip, you know? THCA was legal in Texas through the 2019 Farm Bill until now. Yeah, dude. I mean, dude, Texas is a back-ass-word place. It's just... You can go buy yourself a fucking tank if you want, or an AT-4 rocket launcher, but God forbid you want to get yourself a little doobie, right? God forbid you want a Doobington. But this brings us to today's topic, which is the second war on drugs. Okay? You are living in the second war on drugs. You are living in the second Red Scare. You are living through this weird, modern, technological repeat of the period between the 1970s and 2000. You know, it's fucking delusional. So, we're making a rabbit hole. That's what we're doing. Rabbit hole. And I don't know if you know what that means, because I know what that means. That means we do this. We go gray. We go gray. We go gray. We go gray. We go gray for rabbit hole. That's what we do. Ain't that something? Ain't that something? Huh? Rabbit time. All right, so I got to do some audio tests real quick. So this is going to be like the average volume for Rabbit Hole. How does this sound? How does this sound in terms of the average volume? How are we? In terms of me just talking relatively just like this, how are we in terms of audio? Sorry again. Pretty good. Okay, now I'm going to play a video.
That it be conducted on a basis in which the American people all join in it. That's why the meeting was bipartisan. Bipartisan because we needed the support of the Congress.
How's that? Good? You guys want to see something fucking crazy? Where is it? I want that bag of crack. Is this it?
Drug education in schools and U.S. assistance to...
This is crack cocaine.
George Bush.
Yeah, dude, he whipped out a giant bag of crack. The guy's a nut.
President George Bush addresses the nation.
with an outline of his national
difficult fight. This is crack cocaine.
Jesus! Also, no, but here's something else that is fucking crazy. Check this out.
Prosecutors to convict them, not enough judges to sentence them, and not enough prison cells to put them away for a long time. That's why right now,
what is this, 1982?
6 out of every 10 criminals who are arrested on drug charges have their cases dropped.
Look at them. Look at them. Jesus Christ.
That's why we think the president should triple the commitment that he's made tonight for police, prosecutors, and judges for our cities and our states.
Look at him, Jack. Oh, jeez. Oh, jeez. Oh, Joey. Oh, Joseph.
For this program to be effective, in order for this program to be effective, it is necessary that it be conducted on a basis in which the American people all join in it. That's why the meeting was bipartisan. Bipartisan because we needed the support of the is drug abuse. America's public enemy number one in the United States is drug abuse.
Okay. Alrighty, let's make a video. Hey there! Hi, how are you? Welcome to the latest episode of Rabbit Hole. I'm your perfect and humble leader, Chris Valenti, and I think that today would be a perfect time to talk about the second war on drugs. Today's Rabbit Hole, we're going to be diving into the correlations between the war on drugs that began under Richard Nixon, was exacerbated by people like Ronald Reagan and Bill Clinton and George Bush Sr., and we're going to compare it to this current war on drugs that you are going through in the United States today. You know, there's a climate of fear surrounding the flow of fentanyl into the United States. There's this, you know, like they're talking about how we're being invaded by the southern border with these cartel members and how we need to increase police budgets and give like a fucking $1 trillion to ICE so they could stop the flow of fentanyl. Not to mention the fact that, what is it, Wednesday? Today is May 24th, 2025, but on Wednesday, Texas banned all THC products. All of them. Punishable with a year in jail. So, you know, I feel like this is a perfect time to start talking about the reason why the United States has such a terrible relationship with drug use, the reason why there's so much victim blaming and pinning this onto the drug addicts rather than the system that is failing in and of itself, which causes people to want to do drugs. Not to mention the poverty levels. You know, drug usage has nothing to do with race and everything to do with class, right? And I feel like this would be a good time to talk about it. So before we get started, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell. It costs you nothing and it helps me immensely. If you do want to support the channel financially, there's a couple of ways that you could do it. You could become a patron on Patreon for $5. You could become a member on YouTube for $5. You could buy some Valenti Videos merch right down below. And you can use the 40% off discount code for the Vantage subscription on Ground News, also located in the description down below. But without further ado, let's just start to like dive into this, okay? So one of the first things I want to show you is the real beginning of the war on drugs, which is it's Richard Nixon announcing that, you know, drugs are public enemy number one for America, which essentially in turn labels all drug dealers and drug users as enemies of the state, not as addicts or as people who are down on their luck and genuinely need help. But it starts this climate of judgment rather than treatment. Let's listen. This is 1971.
America's public enemy number one in the United States is drug abuse. In order to fight and defeat this enemy, it is necessary to wage a new all-out offensive. I have asked the Congress to provide the legislative authority and the funds to fuel this kind of an offensive. This will be a worldwide offensive dealing with the problems of sources of supply as well as Americans who may be stationed abroad wherever they are in the world. It will be government-wide, pulling together the 9 different fragmented areas within the government in which this problem is now being handled. And it will be nationwide in terms of a new educational program that we trust will result from the discussions that we have had.
Here's just a little news flash for you. None of this actually worked. The entire plan of the war on drugs to crack down on drug users, to crack down on drug dealers, to, start mass incarcerating people, it didn't end up lowering the rate of drug usage. In fact, the United States, we have an extremely high amount of drug users in this nation. But what it did do was it increased the United States prison population to the point where the United States of America has the largest prison population out of every first world nation on planet Earth, which is also disproportionately full of people of color. So, what we're going to first talk about is the incarceration rate. So that speech was given in 1971. The problem begins under Richard Nixon, right? And in 1970, the United States incarceration rate was 161 per 100,000 residents, right? And pretty soon, immediately after this idea of the war on drugs, you see massive funding going into programs like the DEA. You see the hiring of 100,000 FBI agents being deployed across all 50 states. And you start to see that in the meantime, while the CIA is smuggling cocaine into the United States and distributing it into low-income areas, specifically crack cocaine, there are these new laws that are being written up that charge the possession of crack cocaine, which is primarily used in lower-income areas, with like 5 times longer sentences than the people who are using powder cocaine, which is far more expensive and is quite more typically found in higher-income communities and among the white population. So in 1970, right, you got 161 per 100,000 residents. In 1980, it practically doubles. The U.S. incarceration rate hits 220 per 100,000. And by the time we hit 1990, we're almost at 300. 293 prisoners per 100,000 residents, right? And the whole reason why we start to see more and more people being arrested is because of this combination with Ronald Reagan. When Ronald Reagan is the president, he privatizes the prison industry. We go from having these public prisons that are government funded or state funded into having private prisons that are operating off of profit margins, right? Companies like Geo Group or Civic Corps, who own like 80% of all the private prison institutions within the United States, well, they're in the business of keeping the cells full. If they have an empty cell, that means they're not making as much money, right? So we start to see the birth of this punishment climate, right, where people are far more focused on finding every last drug user and throwing them in prison as if that is going to catch the big bad guy, the cartel leaders, the sicarios, the grow-ops, right, all of these people. None of these people who have been thrown in jail, who are many of them, tens of thousands of them, are still sitting in prison today. None of these people helped bring down the drug rates, the drug usage rates. But what they did do was boost the profit margins of these private prison industries. And it also gave us birth to some of the most iconic lines in American history. One thing that I want to show you is when George Bush Sr. was the president, he pulled out a giant bag of crack cocaine in the Oval Office. And it was clearly fucking fake because these crack rocks are the size of jawbreakers from Ed, Edd n Eddy. But let's take a look at this clip. I think it'll be really funny for you.
Be a very difficult fight.
Come on, play the clip. What's going on? What's going on? We're having some technical issues. We're having some major technical issues. Okay. Okay. We're having major fucking technical issues. I was on a roll, too. Fantastic. I love that. Great. Yippee. I can't even close the fucking video. Thanks, Bush. Oh, Jesus Christ. Let me cut the recording so I can splice it together once I fucking fix this. Can you guys still see me? Yeah. Control-Alt-Delete. No. Oh, what the fuck am I supposed to do about this? Who's a tech wizard here? How the fuck do I get out of this? What the fuck? I've hit escape a million fucking times. Oh, now it wants to fucking work. You piece of shit. Okay, let me start recording again. We had a tech issue, but I'm back, and I'm here to show you George Bush Sr. with a bag of crack.
Difficult fight. This is crack cocaine, seized a few days ago by drug enforcement agents in a park just across the street from the White House.
Look at those fucking rocks, bro.
It could easily have been.
Okay, so you're getting a little taste of some of the funny shit that we got during the first war on drugs, right? But here's another clip. Here's Nancy Reagan, one of the most famous clips, Just Say No.
During the time she was on drugs, everything appeared to her in shades of black and gray. And after her treatment, she was able to see colors again. So to my young friends out there, life can be great, but not when you can't see it. So open your eyes to life, to see it in the vivid colors that God gave us as a precious gift to his children, to enjoy life to the fullest and to make it count. Say yes to your life, and when it comes to drugs and alcohol, just say no.
So, this whole just say no, the war on drugs, this became, like the fucking Bible for white Americans across the United States, right? But at the same time, there were these laws being written in, like the 3-strike rule, which essentially meant that if you were on your 3rd strike, if you were being arrested or detained, if you were caught or charged with any sort of drug offense and it was your 3rd time, no matter what that crime was, no matter how nonviolent the crime was, you would get a mandatory minimum sentence of 25 years in prison, right? So immediately, as we see the incarceration rate skyrocket across the United States, we also see the black and brown population is disproportionately thrown in prison, right? So what I wanted to show you here was the difference between crack and cocaine sentencing. This is, what is this? This is an actual document, the United States Sentencing Commission. This is sent in 1995, a special report to Congress. So although the two types of cocaine cause similar physical reactions, the sentences that users and sellers of the drugs face are vastly different. For powder cocaine, a conviction of possession with intent to distribute carries a 5-year sentence for quantities of 500 grams or more. So in order to go to jail for 5 years, you would need to have 500 grams of powdered cocaine. But for crack, a conviction of possession with intent to distribute carries a 5-year sentence for only 5 grams. Okay? So you have to understand how expensive powder cocaine is, right? In order for a rich white business guy in Wall Street to get 5 years in prison after being caught with powder cocaine, he would need to have 500 grams of it. But in order for a low-income minority to get thrown in prison for 5 years, all they needed to have was a mere 4 grams of it. Right, or sorry, 5 grams of it. It is literally a 100-to-1 ratio in the sentencing, right? So immediately you're starting to see and don't forget that this is all at the same time that, Ronald Reagan's CIA is illegally smuggling cocaine into the United States and purposefully distributing the crack cocaine into black and brown populations so that more and more of them will be thrown in prison, not only to help with the Republican vote, but to also help with the slave population that we have in the prisons, which we will cover at the end. So I want to show you this quote here. This is directly from Richard Nixon's, assistant to the president for domestic affairs. This is a quote, ready, from John Ehrlichman. Quote, "You want to know what this war on drugs was really about? The Nixon campaign in 1968 and the Nixon White House after that had two enemies, the anti-war left and black people. You understand what I'm saying? We knew we couldn't make it illegal to be either against the war or black, but by getting the public to associate the hippies with marijuana and blacks with heroin, and then criminalizing both heavily, we could disrupt those communities. We could arrest their leaders, raid their homes, break up their meetings, and vilify them night after night on the evening news." Now, this isn't conspiracy. This is self-admitted from John Ehrlichman, assistant to the president for domestic affairs under President Richard Nixon. This guy's job was quite literally to sow dissent between, the hippies and the blacks and the whites and the Republicans and the Democrats. This is all intentional division specifically designed to throw leftists and black people into prison, right? Now, as we move through this rabbit hole, we're going to start to move into the modern era. And how am I going to connect, the old war on drugs to the current war on drugs? Well, something that I want to show you is a campaign promise that Trump made when he was running. I know that he's a president now, but this is important for you to see.
Much lower. Look, unless you have the death penalty for drug dealers, you'll never get rid of the drug problem. Put that through your head.
Sorry, let me turn the volume up.
Death penalty for drug dealers, you'll never get rid of the much lower. Look, unless you have the death penalty for drug dealers, you'll never get rid of the drug problem. Put that through your head.
And these people cheer. So, listen. I understand that most families in America have some sort of relationship with drugs in terms of having an addict in the family or somebody who overdosed or anything of the sort. But when you start to focus on criminalization, you are losing the forest for the trees, right? You are not focusing on the actual problem, which is an educational problem. It's a stigma problem. People have this weird stigma around drug users as if they are just useless and we should just let them die, when in fact these are people's children. These are people's fathers, their brothers, their sisters. These are your fellow Americans and they're genuinely in need of dire help. But instead, we are pushed to believe that we should be executing these people. We should be allowing them to die in the street. We should be shunning them. We should be ostracizing them, to the point where we've actually started to put in new laws and legislation that would make it harder for us to save lives, right? And one of those that I want to show you is this new idea of drug-induced homicide, right? So what is drug-induced homicide? DIH refers to any charge for drug distribution that results in death, right? So what does it mean by that? It means that if somebody takes too many drugs and they overdose and die, the government is trying to be able to charge the person who sold the drugs, or even if they didn't sell them, even if they gave them away, that person with murder. So what does that do? It makes people who are witnessing an overdose less likely to call the police, less likely to get EMS, less likely to get the medical care that this person needs because they're afraid that they will be charged with homicide. You understand? You understand? This is basic shit. Excuse me, big burp. Small burp, really. Not only that, we start to see this culture of, more criminalization, more punishment, starting to get more and more aggressive. Here we have a new bill introduced on January 3rd, 2025. It's called the Halt All Lethal Trafficking of Fentanyl Act, or the HALT Act. This bill permanently places fentanyl-related substances as a class into Schedule 1 of the Controlled Substances Act. A Schedule 1 controlled substance is a drug, substance, or chemical that has a high potential for abuse and no currently accepted medical value. Here's the thing. Under the bill, offenses involving fentanyl-related substances are triggered by the same quantity thresholds and subject to the same penalties as offenses involving fentanyl analogs. Right? Additionally, the bill establishes a new alternative registration process for certain Schedule I research. So what does this do? This makes it so that anybody and everybody who is caught with fentanyl is not going to be sent to rehab. They're going to be sent to prison for a mandatory minimum sentence, where, just so you understand, drug usage in prisons are extremely high. And then you got the recidivism rate, people who come out of prison and get sent right back in. The same thing happens with drug users. When you send these people to prison and you don't actually get them the rehabilitation that they need, they are just going to keep on doing drugs. And not only that, they're more likely to try and get even more synthetic products so that they avoid the police's fucking radar in the first place. Then we've got this. The Death Penalty for Dealing Fentanyl Act of 2023. It's a bill that was introduced into the United States House of Representatives. It seeks to amend the Controlled Substances Act to allow for the death penalty as punishment for knowingly distributing fentanyl if death results. So this is exactly what we're talking about, where the nation is starting to adopt a policy rather than decriminalization of drugs, which we have been seeing throughout the past 8 years, and massive benefits from the decriminalization. We are moving back into criminalization, right? And my favorite example that I want to give you is this. I showed you this yesterday or earlier. A bill banning THC passed in the Texas House late Wednesday night. The Senate bill passed banning all THC products in Texas. Adults would face up to a year in jail for possessing any THC product. Mind you, in Texas, you can buy an AT-4 rocket launcher, put it on a strap, and walk into a McDonald's, right? Now, you're probably wondering, hey, Chris, why is this so important? Why do you give a fuck about all these people who are thrown in prison? This is why. Because the 13th Amendment of the United States, which you would think was the amendment that abolished slavery, well, it did. It abolished slavery, except as punishment for a crime, right? All of these people, and I'm pretty sure it's something like 47% of all federal inmates, or federal prisoners are there for drug crimes. All of these people are enslaved. I hope you don't think that the people in prison are just sitting in their cell all day counting the fucking sheep. No. They are forced to do slave wage labor where they're paid something like 10 to 13 cents an hour in order to create school supplies like fucking desks and pencils, right? The reason why we have so many black and brown people in prison in the United States is because it is the modern form of slavery. It is as simple as that, right? And what I want to show you right here for the very end here is this. Over 360,000 people are in prison for drug offenses, okay? All of those people, look at this, focuses on drug trafficking. Within the federal system, a large majority, 99% of those incarcerated for drug offenses were convicted of drug trafficking rather than of simple possession. Racial disparities. It is important to note that racial and ethnic disparities exist within the criminal justice system, including drug-related incarcerations, okay? 47% of the federal prison population is in there for a drug-related offense. And all of these people, including the guy who was arrested in 1985 for having a joint, they are enslaved in the United States of America. That's fucked. Anyway, welcome to the end of the rabbit hole. I know that was pretty intense. But don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. It costs you nothing, and it helps me immensely. And click that video right over there. I promise you, it's an absolute banger. Have a good one. Hell fucking yeah. Hell fucking yeah. Hell fucking yeah. www. Now I gotta splice those two fucking videos together. We've got to splice. We've got to splice, folks. What's
this? Be a very difficult fight.
Come on, play the clip. Everything going well with frames? Yeah, everything's good, brother. How you doing? There's a lot of THC dispos in Texas. Yeah, well, they're all about to be shut down. All right, so where was it? What's going on? Private prison industries. And it also gave us birth to some of the most iconic lines in American history. One thing that I want to show you is when George Bush Sr. was the president, he pulled out a giant bag of crack cocaine in the Oval Office. And it was clearly fucking fake because these crack rocks were the size of jawbreakers from Ed, Edd n Eddy. But let's take a look at this clip. I think it'll be really funny for you.
Be a very difficult fight.
Come on, play the clip. All right, so there, I got to split it. This has to be deleted. And then we got to do... Look at this clip. I think it'll be really funny for you.
Be a very difficult fight.
Come on, play the clip. We had a tech issue, but I'm back, and I'm here to show you George Bush Sr. with a bag of crack.
Difficult fight.
There we go.
This is...
That'll do. Let's save that. Hi, Bean. Hi, handsome. Is that downloading? I believe it is. All right, that's going to download. Bean, what are you doing? You want to say hi? Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye. Hi. Free to go. Did you watch those Bernie clips I sent you? No. I know we're losing frame rates, but that's also because I got this fucking thing downloading. It's probably going to take a while. I'm going to end the stream so that this downloads quicker, all right? No, the cable's fine. It's just that I'm fucking uploading this thing. I'm going to end the stream. Let this do its job.